Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Checking in on the MJ sector, we're going to look at WEED, APH, ACB, CRON, TLRY, TGOD, CVSI. Congrats to the Bulls. Wonderful week. It was actually the best trading week I've ever had in my life. Thanks a lot to Canadian MJ, but not only Canadian MJ. Certainly helped though. So we have the Bulls in full control of WEED, closing up strong at the end of the week, and we are looking at the all-time high, 48.72. It's entirely possible that we test this level next week. We need 10 more percent. The Bulls have a ton of momentum, and the action that we saw on Friday, it was very clear that there's institutions doing a lot of buying, and I'll point out why that is clear to me. And it's obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, it's often something that I commonly see on other names such as Apple or other big players when there is institutional buying going on. So we also have something to be aware of, that there's going to be some articles coming out this weekend talking about how the Canadian government has to approve this investment from Constellations into WEED. Might be trying to spin a little bit of fear, but that news is, number one, unknown, because anything over $1.5 billion has to be, double checked. And number two, it came out during regular trading hours. So it's just a question of how much is that going to circulate and how much is that going to trick people essentially into some fear. So what we have is all bulls in full control. We're looking for a bullish MACD cross. We are looking for new all-time highs this year, and that's because we have the upcoming catalyst as well in October. And so from this standpoint of where we are compared to what we need for all-time highs, obviously, it's more likely than not that we do get that. Just like I said a long time ago, a few weeks ago, it's not likely that APH is going to get all-time highs by then. We still need well over 100%. We need 140%, where WEED needs 10%. So obviously, it's a very different setup. So the daily time frame for WEED is extremely strong, and we're looking up at 44.23 and 48.72. That's pretty much the only two resistances that we have aside from psychological levels, looking at 45, 46, 47. And we're going to be watching the hourly time frame because it's a bit extended. And I say that because we did not consolidate at all on Friday. And that's also one of the reasons that I can say that it is likely institutional buying that was going on. So on the 5-minute time frame, when you see this kind of action right here, this is not normal trading in the sense that when you look at the 15-minute time frame, again, just the lack of any consolidation when this goes up. And I use short-term exponential moving averages. So on the 5-minute time frame, if the exponential 4 and 8 period are holding the entire morning or for 3 hours in a row, that tells me there is sustained buying going on, and it's not normal market conditions. In normal market conditions, we would have seen, profit taking or consolidation either before 42.36 or before the double top at that point, which was up at 43.35. And we didn't really see that. We just saw a straight 5-minute bull move from oversold straight to overbought. And every single dip was being bought with significant bullish volume. And then, of course, we can see the order books coming in, and we can see which institutions are doing buying, and there was a lot of institutional buying going on. So I actually missed this move in the morning of Friday. Actually, before I made the last video, pointed out how we were looking for the setup on Thursday, and it played out perfectly. So just want to touch on that a little bit. That's the kind of scenario where I set up a trade game plan, which is what you want to be doing every single day. I wake up an hour or more than that. I wake up 3 hours before the bell rings, and I'm doing 2 hours of preparation before I even start trading. And so that's the setup. I said, if we do not break the high of Tuesday, or actually high of Wednesday, we're looking for a profit-taking setup and for a potential bearish play. And we hit that level. Did I know we were going to reject from that level? Was I saying I'm entering bearish on Thursday? No. I was saying if, then. It's an if-then scenario. If we cannot get over the high of Wednesday, then we look to take profit or we look to go bearish because we're going to look for a pullback. Then, of course, the bull showed up in a big way, bullish engulfing candlestick, and that's where we are now. So I missed this move on Friday. Every morning, I'm answering dozens of questions for people, looking at their tickers, getting the setup ready for the day. So I'm constantly juggling that between finding my own plays, between talking live while it's all going on. So I have to ensure that I stay grounded and stay in my trade game plan and don't go off the rails because I'm overwhelmed. And it took me literally a year and a half, 2 years of practice doing all of these things at the same time to be able to do that while trading. So I said to myself, first thing, I said, all right, if CGC, I was trading CGC, and I said, if we break $30, I'm going to go in. And I was planning on going in pretty big because we got very overextended first thing in the morning, and the bounce started without me 20 cents before my target. So I wasn't going to chase it. And at that point, it didn't really give me an opportunity because it just kept running so strong. And I kept looking at the 15-minute time frame and the hourly and saying, all right, well, we have a key resistance approaching. We're a bit extended. Then we would blow through that resistance. So I absolutely missed the move. Some people accuse me of, only highlighting winning plays, and that's just not the case. I missed Friday's move. But there were two ways to deal with that. I could say, darn, I missed that move, and I could stare at the price continue going up. I could count the money that I didn't make. I could get bummed and, not do anything. Instead, I went about my day, and I had a week maker worth of a day where, if I have a goal of every single day of what I want to make, I made 5 days worth of profits on Friday trading other things. I traded Tesla, I traded bull miner ETFs, and I might have traded Netflix, I forget what else. But it was a significant trading day for me. And would I have made more if I was on that move first thing in the morning? Probably, for Canadian MJ. But again, because I made profit in other places, I could care less that I missed that move right now. I'm going to go back and watch and see, okay, what could I have noticed? What could I have done differently? And learn from that. But I'm not going to beat myself up because I was able to just move along and continue trading throughout the day. I did trade in the second half of the day once we started getting some ranges established, and I wanted to swing a position because I saw the institutional buying. I saw how much strength we saw. I see the lack of resistance, and of course we're in such a bullish environment right now with this news still, carrying us with some jet fuel, that we have the weekend for it to continue to circulate and people to continue to get interested and hear about it. So I entered at the end of the day on this bull break, this little 5-minute lower high, because I knew I wanted a position at the end of the day. And that wasn't a guarantee. I entered my position. It wasn't a guarantee I was going to swing. I needed to see a strong close within 1% of the high. So as soon as we broke 43.66, I entered. And then when I saw this kind of move into the end of the day, I entered even more. And I entered a bigger position than normal. So because of that exposure, I then took profit on CGC after hours. CGC closed at, what was it, 32.75, 33.75. And after hours, it got up to 33.95. I sold a third of my position at 33.95, 20 cents higher than the close, to take off some of that risk, lock in that profit, and then I'm going to look to potentially do the same pre-market. There's a lot of Canadian traders in our chat room that are switching now and not trading WEED. They're trading CGC, and that's because they have the opportunity to sell pre-market. I mean, we saw the opportunity on Wednesday where I literally sold 20% higher than the open because of that pre-market activity. So now we're seeing the shift. Look at the dollar volume on WEED. We have, or I should say the share count. We have 18.4, 8.5, and 8.4. And we look at CGC, and it's blowing WEED out of the water. 35, 11, 11.5. So we're seeing the shift going on now where there is more dollar volume in the US side of things than there are on the Canadian side of things. And I'm wondering if that's just going to be the case from now on, as people, number one, want to have exposure to be able to trade extended hours. And number two, a lot of US interest, obviously, with Constellation Brands being a US company and getting a lot of attention that way. So that's always something I'm going to be watching now. Is CGC now going to be the main chart name to chart? Whoever has the most volume is the name to be charting, and the other name is going to trade based off of that. Obviously, they trade based off of each other to a certain degree, but whoever has more volume is the more important player. So that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on for the rest of the week. As far as support goes, we're going to be looking at support of 43.40. And like I said, we definitely need hourly consolidation. We need to establish an hourly higher low. We're going to look for that to happen on Monday, but we can anticipate it's probably going to be healthy consolidation to establish that higher low and going to keep the bulls in control overall. So all-time high watch on WEED. We did see some follow through on some of these other names. It's important to take a moment and be real with yourself right now. If you are not in WEED and you're in other positions and you're looking at WEED and you're having these negative thoughts and disdain and you're essentially what I feel is going to happen right now is we're going to breed a bunch of trolls that are just going to bash WEED because they chose the wrong horse. It's not the sector leader. It's not seeing the size of the gains that WEED is. And so they're going to take that negativity out on WEED, on Reddit or on the forums or wherever. And it's important to objectively reflect upon yourself and see if this is something that you're doing, because it's all just emotions as always. And if it is, stop. Because If WEED is bullish, it is helping the entire sector. Everybody is on the same team here. If you chose the wrong horse, that's on you. It doesn't have anything to do with the company. You want WEED to succeed if you have APH in your holdings, because it's only going to help. As you can see, it significantly helped this week. APH was about to enter an area with a lack of support and look very ugly on the weekly chart. And because of this sector news and what it did to the entire sector, it is helping the bulls. So we have a solid bullish reversal weekly candlestick. The next resistance level is up at 1160. The bulls have to break that to break the weekly lower high pattern. The daily time frame, we can see that we broke the lower high here. So we had a lower high at 1052. Because that level broke, we are more likely now to form a higher low. And to confirm a daily trend change, we need the higher low and then the higher high continuation. Doesn't mean we have to pull back Monday, but just when we do consolidate this coming week, we need that higher low and then we need continuation to confirm that the bulls have shifted momentum. The bears have very clearly been in control from June to mid-August. 2 months of clear bear control. The bulls need to change that. We have a daily inside bar to be watching. 1003 is support. 1065 and 1072 are the two resistance levels. And after that, we're looking up at that 1160 level. Same thing as far as supports go. Hourly time frame, we have more support established. We didn't run as significantly as WEED did, and we can establish a couple clear levels. Turn off extended hours. They're a bit more clear. I'd say the most important level, 10 and 1003. You can see a little double low of support there. If that level is lost, some solid daily consolidation is going to be coming. ACB on the weekly time frame, same thing. This was the start of the bounce for ACB from the depths of darkness for the bulls was because of the correlation to WEED and the attention it brought on the sector. So it's a bullish reversal candlestick. We're nowhere near changing any trend on the weekly time frame. We're going to bounce and set a weekly lower high, and then it's going to require a higher low and a higher high to change the trend. The daily time frame, same thing. So next resistance on the daily, we're looking up at 710, a clear level. If 710 is broken, we break the lower highs. If not, we're just going to set a lower high. Currently 675 is the top of this move. So I'm looking at resistance of 651, 660, 675, and we did establish a support level after a little stutter step at 607. So 607 is now the most important support level. You can see if we break 607, there's a lack of support. We're looking down at 582 after that. So that's the most important short-term support here. And again, the daily chart is going to have to form higher lows and higher highs and see continuation on this bounce move. Otherwise, this is just an oversold bounce. So again, a ton of proof is still needed in APH and ACB, and that proof is not needed in WEED because the chart is very clearly the most bullish. Cron also seeing some follow through. Solid day for the Cron bulls. We have a base of support now, 737, 34, and 35 or 33. 3 days or 3 weeks in a row. The low 730s are now an important support level. As far as resistance goes, we have a lower high at 945 and 1079. As the daily chart, trying to change this trend, there we go with a little higher low and a higher high. We have already confirmed the daily trend change because of that little double bottom and break of the lower highs. So resistance right now is 875, a double top from Thursday and Friday, and then we're looking up at 945 after that as the next clear level. There's a couple other levels in there. So after 875, I'd be looking at 920, this little bounce attempt before continuation down. So we'll see what kind of follow through Cron can get. As far as the daily and weekly charts go, it's WEED, Cron, APH, and then ACB. That is their order of strength. Now let's get into some of the smaller names. TLRY also wants some all-time highs. So the daily time frame for TLRY, after 31 and 31.23, it's just the all-time high resistance of 34.10. So it's psychological levels, 32, 33, 34, and this definitely is in sight. We'll see how long the bulls can keep up here. If we cannot break this all-time high, we're going to look to top out, set a lower high, and then pull back and set a weekly higher low and keep those bulls strong because of the size of the bounce that we have seen from the low. We went from 21.50 up to 31.23. And we had that scenario where we put out that video saying, you know, we're buyers today on August 13th because the ETF of MJ started buying. And of course, we walked straight into a terrible market environment for the bulls with the entire sector dumping on that Ontario news. So that was just bad luck. And that's the kind of scenario where if you protect your position and, you know, have stop losses, obviously, it would have worked out if you didn't have stop losses because of the big save, but that's the kind of scenario where I'm fine getting stopped out. You know, the setup was there. It was just an unfavorable market environment, and that's going to happen from time to time. And it ended up turning into a very favorable market environment with the reaction to WEED. And then after that, major player Citron with, oh man, his name's slipping my mind. But Citron and their team went bullish on TLRY as well. Again, I do believe because of the proximity to the all-time highs, for them to have a big winner. And we're going to be looking for TLRY to hit all-time highs this year because of the lack of price history. And it's the kind of thing, I don't care what the market cap is. Maybe it's overpriced. That can entirely be the case, but that has no bearing on where this price can go. The only thing that matters about where this price can go right now in the short term is supply and demand of shares. If there's more buying than selling, the price is going to go up. So again, we could have a market cap of 20 billion. Absolutely. That's a point to not invest. But as far as trading goes, I do not care what the market cap is. I care what the price levels are. So that's what we're looking at for TLRY. Support on the hourly here. Built a support level at 30, so essentially we're in a range between 30 psychological support and 31 psychological resistance, and you'll see those psychological levels come into play a lot more due to the lack of price history on names that are recent IPOs. T-God, keeping an eye on it because it is still consolidating on the weekly, and the reason I'm keeping an eye on it is because the daily downtrend is so clear, and the change of the daily downtrend will be just as clear as this trend currently is. So lower highs and lower lows for month after month, and looking at a new lower high here. Resistance of 548 would be the early bull signal if we break that level. More patient bulls are waiting for 576. And support, bulls must hold 493 and 488 to try and form this little higher low and then break the lower highs. If we drop down to a lower low, that puts the bulls back at square one, and it gives them a big step back in terms of changing this trend. So absolutely still worth watching. And when that trend change occurs, we're going to be looking at a solid 15% move, in my opinion, as a conservative target for when the trend changes in terms of the follow through that we can expect, but that hasn't happened yet. So this is the kind of play where I check in on it every day, once a day, have it written down, next to my computer to keep an eye on it, but no short-term actions are shaping up at the moment, especially because we closed at the low of the day on Friday. CVSI has been an absolute raging bull, and they just keep running and don't stop. At this point, you do not want to be making any bullish entries unless you're just short-term day trading, in my opinion, because the risk to reward is just not favorable after running so hard. This weekly chart, the last time we consolidated clearly, was down at 152. We are currently 300% higher than that level with no consolidation at any point. So yes, we can keep running. The bulls have certainly proven that over the last month. But again, it's just risk to reward. Do I want to get in a scenario and hope that we keep running, knowing that my reward is maybe another 10% up and my risk is maybe 10 or 15% drop? It's just the risk is more than the reward where we currently stand because of how hard we have been running. So resistance is $681 and $7 heading into Monday. The bull volume is still certainly there. Hourly higher lows being lost would be an indication of daily consolidation coming. The most recent day or hourly higher low is 630, and you can see same thing as SPY. Look at this SPY, or I should say the same thing as WEED. So look at this hourly chart, and let's compare. Something similar is going on here. And TLR or CVSI is trying to get added to NASDAQ with an uplisting. So potentially some institutional stuff going on here as well. Very similar charts, and you'll see no other name that we looked at looks anywhere near like those two charts do. So that's an observation that I'm just making here in the moment live. I had not compared those hourly charts. That's something to keep an eye on. And obviously, I mean, to see this move, big money is behind this. This is not just retail driving it up. This is institutions driving it up. So all very interesting. Again, staying protective out there. We've run really hard over the past few days. The bulls are absolutely still in control of WEED, but I am going to be quick to go back to all cash and watch how we react towards that all-time high because of the volatility that we see. I mean, just from the high of the past couple days, 43.37, and then the low of Friday, that's almost a 10% drop, and that's the kind of move that I want to capitalize on and stay liquid and stay agile. And the longs are certainly not too shabby themselves. So all depends on what your game plan is. Longs are happy. Short-term traders are happy. Everybody's happy except for maybe ACB longs. Hang in there. We'll see if we can get a trend change, but no sign of it yet. So I appreciate you watching. Certainly a lot to come in this sector. In my opinion, WEED is going to have so much cash ready to go when the U.S. comes online and gets favorable federal laws, and they might not even wait for that. I anticipate WEED to be a triple digits. I said this a long time ago, but I anticipate it to be a triple digit stock. I anticipate it to have a major presence in the US. I'm talking, 5 years out, 10 years out, however long it takes. We know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And I anticipate this kind of news, $4 billion from Constellation. There's going to be 10 companies, as big as Constellation, maybe not as big, but major companies throwing billions of dollars into this sector. Again, the US has 10 times the population of Canada. And if I were WEED, I would be, getting ready to kill it in the Canadian space. But my longer term plans would have a huge focus on the US and would ensure that pretty much everything that I'm doing in Canada can be copied and replicated down in the US to take advantage of when those floodgates open up. And if that's the case, and WEED does do that, again, triple digits, obviously if the stock market crashes or anything like that, that's going to completely throw off that call. But I am looking for triple digits in WEED sometime in the next few years when the US market gets involved as well. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you sometime soon. Have a great rest of your weekend.